You've been told the story your whole life. Sugar causes blood sugar spikes. Eat less sugar, drink less soda, cut the sweets, and your glucose stays stable. And so that's what millions of people do. They read the labels, they avoid the obvious culprits, they switch to diet versions, they stop adding sugar to their tea, and they still crash at 3 p.m. They still wake up at 2 a.m. starving, they still feel foggy after lunch, even when that lunch looked completely reasonable. And they assume the problem is them, that their body is just broken in some way they can't fix. It isn't. The problem is that they've been told an incomplete story. Sugar is not the primary driver of blood sugar instability in most people. There is a hidden mechanism, one that operates completely under the radar of mainstream dietary advice, and it is responsible for the crashes, the cravings, the relentless hunger, and the energy swings that millions of people experience every single day while genuinely trying to eat well. Hi, my name is Dr. Miles. I've spent 13 years in emergency medicine, and what I see on the front line of preventable disease has driven me to do exactly this. To give people the real science before the damage is already done. Because by the time blood sugar instability becomes type 2 diabetes or metabolic syndrome, we've missed years of opportunity. And that opportunity starts with understanding what is actually causing your spikes in the first place. Why the sugar story is only half true. Let's start with what sugar actually does in the body, because the mechanism is real. It's just misunderstood. When you eat sugar, your blood glucose rises. Your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin directs glucose into your cells. If the spike was sharp, the insulin response is large and aggressive, and your blood sugar can drop below where it started. That crash is what sends you reaching for the biscuit tin an hour after a meal you thought was perfectly fine. That part of the story is true, but here's what the story leaves out. Sugar is not the only thing that causes a sharp glucose spike. Refined carbohydrates, the ones found in white bread, white rice, crackers, breakfast cereals, pasta, wraps, and most packaged foods, break down into glucose just as rapidly as table sugar does. In some cases, faster. And the vast majority of people eating what they believe is a low-sugar diet are consuming enormous quantities of refined carbohydrates at every single meal. The white toast at breakfast is not sugar. The sandwich wrap at lunch is not sugar. The bowl of pasta at dinner is not sugar. But inside your digestive system, all three behave almost identically to it. They break down rapidly, flood your bloodstream with glucose, trigger a large insulin response, and set up the exact same crash cycle that everyone blames on the chocolate bar they didn't eat. This is the hidden cause. Not sugar specifically, but rapid glucose entry into the bloodstream from any source. And the food environment we live in is engineered to produce exactly that at every meal, 3 times a day, in foods that carry no warning and attract no suspicion. The speed problem. Understanding why this matters requires understanding one thing about your physiology. Your blood sugar response is not determined by how much glucose a food contains. It is determined by how fast that glucose enters your bloodstream. Think of it this way. Imagine pouring a bucket of water slowly into a drain over 10 minutes. The drain handles it perfectly. No overflow, no problem. Now pour the same bucket all at once. The drain can't cope. Water goes everywhere. Your bloodstream works exactly the same way. A given amount of glucose, delivered slowly over 2 hours, produces a gentle, manageable wave that your pancreas handles proportionally, with a controlled insulin response and stable energy on the other side. The same amount of glucose delivered in 20 minutes creates a flood. Your pancreas responds with an insulin surge. Glucose gets cleared too aggressively. Your blood sugar drops sharply, and within the hour, you are hungry, irritable, foggy, and craving something to eat again. The question is never just what you are eating. It is always, how fast is this going to reach my bloodstream? And that speed is controlled almost entirely by what else is in your digestive system at the same time. The 3 accelerators nobody warns you about. There are 3 dietary patterns that accelerate glucose entry into the bloodstream faster than almost anything else, and none of them are labeled as sugar. The first is eating carbohydrates without fiber. Fiber forms a physical gel-like barrier in your intestines that slows the rate at which glucose is absorbed into your bloodstream. When you eat carbohydrates alongside fiber-rich vegetables, legumes, or whole foods, the glucose release is gradual and controlled. When you eat carbohydrates stripped of their fiber, which describes almost every refined and processed carbohydrate on the market, there is nothing slowing the absorption down. Glucose enters your bloodstream rapidly, and the spike follows immediately. The second accelerator is liquid carbohydrates. This is the one that catches people most off guard, particularly because many liquid carbohydrate sources are marketed as healthy. Fruit juice, even freshly pressed, is fructose without fiber. Smoothies loaded with fruit, flavored waters with added sugars, commercial protein shakes, sports drinks, and even some plant milks deliver glucose in a form your gut absorbs almost instantly. Solid food has to be mechanically broken down, digested, and processed before glucose enters your blood. Liquid bypasses most of that process entirely. A glass of orange juice can spike your blood sugar faster than most sweets can. The third accelerator is eating alone. Not physically alone, but eating carbohydrates alone, without protein or fat present in the meal. Protein slows gastric emptying, which is the rate at which food leaves your stomach and enters your small intestine. Fat does the same. When protein and fat are present in a meal, everything moves through your digestive system more slowly, and your glucose release is naturally drawn out over a longer window. When carbohydrates arrive without them, the door is open for rapid absorption and a spike that neither you nor your pancreas was prepared for. Before we continue, I have to ask you something. If this is already changing the way you understand what's been happening in your body, then you are exactly who this channel is for. I'm Dr. Miles, and my mission with every video I make is to give you the clinical science that most people never hear until it's too late. If you're finding real value in this, please take 5 seconds right now and hit subscribe. Every subscription tells the algorithm that this kind of content matters and helps it reach the people sitting at home wondering why their body isn't responding the way it should. It costs you nothing. It means everything to the growth of this channel. Hit subscribe and let's keep going. What's actually happening during a spike? Here's why blood sugar spikes matter beyond just how you feel in the moment. When your blood glucose rises sharply, your pancreas releases a large dose of insulin to bring it back down. Insulin is not just a blood sugar regulator. It is also a storage hormone. When insulin is high, your body is in storage mode. Fat burning stops. Glucose that can't be immediately used gets converted and stored as fat, particularly visceral fat around your organs. And the more frequently this happens throughout the day, the more your cells begin to resist insulin's signal. They've been flooded with it so many times that they start to become unresponsive. That's insulin resistance. And it doesn't arrive suddenly. It builds slowly, over months and years, driven by repeated spikes from the very foods that never get blamed because they don't taste sweet. It shows up first as energy that never quite returns to baseline. Then as weight that won't shift, no matter how carefully you eat. Then as blood sugar numbers that your doctor watches with increasing concern. The hidden cause of your spikes today is the hidden driver of your metabolic risk tomorrow. The framework that actually stops spikes. The solution is not restriction. It is context. You do not need to eliminate carbohydrates. You need to change the conditions under which they enter your digestive system. Every meal should be built around 3 anchors before carbohydrates are added: protein, fiber, and fat. These 3 nutrients collectively slow digestion, moderate insulin response, and transform what could have been a spike into a stable, gradual glucose curve that leaves you energized and satiated for hours rather than crashing within one. Eat in the right order. Research consistently shows that eating fiber-rich vegetables first, followed by protein and fat, and finishing with carbohydrates, significantly reduces the glucose spike from that meal. The fiber creates the physical barrier first. The protein primes your digestive hormones. By the time the carbohydrates arrive, your system is already set up to process them slowly. You do not need to eat in rigid, separated stages. Simply starting with vegetables and finishing with the starchy portion of your meal makes a measurable difference. Move after eating. Your muscles are the most underused tool in blood sugar regulation. When they are active, they absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream without needing insulin to do it. A 10-minute walk after your largest meal can reduce your post-meal glucose spike by up to 30%. Not tomorrow, not after a month of consistency. At your very next meal, the effect is immediate because the physiology is immediate. And address the liquid. If you are consuming fruit juice, sweetened drinks, or high carbohydrate smoothies, that is almost certainly contributing more to your glucose instability than any food on your plate. Replace juice with the whole fruit. Build smoothies around protein, fat, and vegetables, with fruit as a minor addition rather than the primary ingredient. Blood sugar instability is not your fault, and it is not your genetic destiny. It is the predictable result of eating in a food environment that has been designed entirely without your health in mind, to deliver glucose rapidly, repeatedly, and without warning in foods that carry no label that says spike. The hidden cause of your blood sugar spikes is not the sugar you know to avoid. It is the refined carbohydrates you've been told are fine, eaten without the fiber, protein, and fat that your physiology requires to process them safely. Change that context, and you change your glucose. Change your glucose, and you change your energy, your focus, your cravings, your weight, and your long-term metabolic risk. You now know what most people never get told. Use it, starting with your very next meal. And if this video gave you something real today, please subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone whose energy crashes every afternoon and who blames themselves for it. My goal is to get this science to as many people as possible, and every single subscriber makes that possible. I'll see you in the next one.